Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Flagstaff Mayor Becky Daggett, who is absent today, as she is the guest of honor for Congressman Eli Crane at this year's State of the Union address in our nation's capital, I'm Vice Mayor Austin Aslin, and I'm calling the regular council meeting to order. Today is February 7th, 2023. And just a quick house cleaning note before we kick things off, I would like to provide notice that the City Council may vote, if needed, to go into executive session, which will not be open to the public for discussions or legal advice with the city's attorneys on any item listed on today's agenda. Okay, City Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Daggett, Vice Mayor Aslin,
Present.
Councilmember Harris,
Present.
Councilmember House,
Here.
Councilmember Matthews,
Here.
Councilmember McCarthy,
Here.
Councilmember Sweet.
Here.
Great. Councilmember Sweet, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilmember McCarthy, do you happen to have our mission statement memorized?
I don't know, but I have it written down. I probably could do this from memory. The mission of the City of Flagstaff is to protect and enhance the quality of life for all.
Thank you very much. And Councilmember House, are you able to read the land acknowledgement?
It's my honor, thank you. The Flagstaff City Council humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by Native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Thank you so much. We are now down to item 4A of our agenda, which is the approval of minutes from previous meetings. Item 4A is the City Council regular meeting of January 4th, 2022, special meeting of January 6th, 2022, work session of January 11th, 2022, regular meeting of January 3rd, 2023, special meeting, executive session of January 10th, 2023, special meeting, executive session of January 12th, 2023, the regular meeting of January 17th, 2023, the City Council retreat of January 19th of this year, and the City Council retreat of January 20th of this year. Staff's recommended action is that we go ahead and approve all of the meeting minutes I just listed. Does council have any questions or comments? How about a motion?
I move to approve the minutes as listed.
I'll second.
Great. We have a motion from Councilmember McCarthy and a second from Councilmember House. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No surprise there. That motion carries. We are now down to public participation. This is an opportunity for the public to speak on issues and items that are not on tonight's agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, and the council is not able to respond to any comments, even though we may like to, because the topics have not been agendized. City Clerk, we have one comment here from Stephen Purr. You're welcome to come up.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor Aslin, council members. I come before you today to thank the council, staff, for being open-minded on the use of general funds and the opportunity to moderate the stormwater fee increase while prioritizing the flood mitigation at Highway 180 Schultz Creek Culvert. This provides the residents of Coconino Estates, Northwood Apartments, and Savannah Way some degree of comfort that the petition that they signed has been heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. City Clerk, do we have any other public comments?
No, Vice Mayor, we do not.
Okay. Oh, absolutely. Why don't you fill out a card real fast and we'll stall while you, or what? Yeah, come on up. Lena, and then you can fill out the card.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and Council. I'm here representing two entities. First, as an officer at NAACP, we want to congratulate and welcome Mayor and Council who come on board this term. Thank you for your dedication and willingness to serve our community. The second that I want to say related to Black History Month, we want to invite Mayor and Councils, and of course the Vice Mayor, to our event on February 19 at 3 o'clock at Murdoch Community Center to honor our Citizen of the Year of NAACP. This is not Daily Sun Citizen of the Year. So the second, I know this is just not supposed to say it, but I will say it in 2 words because I will not be here until that come up in the agenda. As personal community member, I want to say that I saw it in the agenda regarding the proposal of future agenda for rename Agassi Peak. I encouraged Mayor and Council to put on the future agenda for further discussion and invite the Native community input in this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lena. We are down to agenda item number 6, proclamations and recognitions. So we have 2 today. 6A is a proclamation about astrotourism. I see some friendly faces from Lowell and Discover Flagstaff in the building here. I'll read that one for us, and then proclamation 6B is about Black History Month. And it's a long one, and I'm going to suggest we each take a turn reading from it before the final declaration I make on the mayor's behalf. So let's come stand in front of the room and do that whole thing. And if you're here for the astrotourism proclamation, why don't you come on down too? Come join us over here. Warm bodies. We got, yeah, come on. Megan, Danielle, and Kevin, cool. Thanks for joining us. We have some folks online too with Discover Flagstaff who are with us as well. Okay, whereas the city of Flagstaff is the world's best destination for astrotourism made possible with the conservation of the dark skies, and in 1958, Flagstaff enacted the world's first outdoor lighting ordinance, and on October 24th, 2001, the International Dark Sky Association designated Flagstaff as the world's first international dark sky city, and Flagstaff is known for clear and breathtaking skyscapes, which afforded Clyde Tombaugh the opportunity to discover Pluto in 1930, and also provides past and present astronomers and NASA to study the solar system and our place in the universe. And the Flagstaff Grand Canyon region offers astrotourism as an experiential year-round Flagstaff activity for residents and visitors made possible with local and surrounding area businesses. And all the astronauts that walked on the moon trained in Flagstaff, and the people of Flagstaff continue to make significant contributions to Flagstaff's lunar legacy, mapping the moon, training past and present astronauts, testing and developing equipment to be used on space missions, practicing missions, and identifying sites for missions. And astrotourism provides jobs, inspires visitation, educates people of all ages, and contributes to the economy throughout Flagstaff. And now, therefore, I, on behalf of Becky Daggett, Mayor of the City of Flagstaff, recognize the month of February as Astrotourism Month, dated this 7th day of February, 2023. If anyone wants to provide a few words, you're more than welcome to.
On behalf of
Use the mic. And here, this is for you.
On behalf of Discover Flagstaff, we are so pleased that the mayor and council has recognized Astrotourism Month for February 2023. Thank you all so much.
Photo thing? Stand in the middle.
Come on, Danielle.
Very exciting. Thank you. Okay, please do.
Just for fun, I'd like to note that my first boss at a little company called Air Research, which is now part of Honeywell, my boss was at the Mission Control Center during the Mercury launches because we made the environmental control system. In other words, pressurization and the air that they breathed. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that for fun. Thank you. Oh, we got one more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jean, you want to join us? Jean Toner is the chair of the Commission on Diversity Awareness, and she's going to help us by accepting this proclamation, which I'm going to start reading, and then in turn, I would like each of you to come down and take a paragraph. I think that's a great way to do this. The city of Flagstaff celebrates the rich cultural traditions and proud ancestry of the peoples of the African diaspora and recognizes their vital contributions made to strengthen and diversify the city of Flagstaff and our surrounding communities. And National Black History Month serves as a powerful reminder that Black history is American history, and the stories from our Black ancestors are essential to the ongoing story of American culture. As the Flagstaff City Council embraces and celebrates National Black History Month, let us not take lightly the faults, the battles, the progress, the hope, the aspirations, and the future. And
as the celebrations shine a light on Black history today, let us embrace the importance of understanding each other's differences and building a stronger community, city, county, state, and nation together. It is essential that we pause to celebrate the extensive contributions of Black Americans and honor the legacies and achievements of past generations and confront all injustices that still exist today. And
Black cultures are igniting challenging conversations and stimulating learning through the global lens of the African diaspora, which shape, develop, and create a vibrant city. A city where the first sawmill and railroad workers, innovators, civil rights activists, educators, council members, commissioners, a mayor, and public servants include peoples of the African diaspora and
The Flagstaff City Council observes the 2023 Black History Month theme, Black Resistance, which explores how African Americans have resisted historic and ongoing oppression in all forms, especially the racial terrorism of lynching, racial pogroms, and police killings since our nation's earliest days, according to asalh.org, and
the Council continues its commitment to understanding the Black life experience through the adoption of Live Black Experience strategic plan in December 2020 that provides direction and guidance to address conditions of the African diaspora people in the Flagstaff community. And
in celebration of National Black History Month, let us all recommit to protect the foundation of our democracy and the sacred rights to vote as we undo the structural inequities that have served as obstacles for Black families for generations. Let us continue to fight together for the opportunity, equity, and dignity to which every human being is due in equal measure. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. from the Declaration of Independence archives.
The Commission on Diversity Awareness, in partnership with Coconino County African Diaspora Advisory Council and the Southside Community Association, recommends the designation of February 2023 as Black History Month, in unison to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Now, therefore, on behalf of Becky Daggett, Mayor of the City of Flagstaff, I do hereby proclaim the month of February as Black History Month. Jean, come on down. Give us some comments.
Well, I didn't come prepared to make comments, but it's a real pleasure it's a privilege to be here to receive this proclamation on behalf of the Commission on Diversity Awareness and on behalf of the entire community of Flagstaff. This is an important proclamation, and thank y'all.
Okay, you grab it and we'll do some photos. You're good? All right, thank you. Thanks, Jean.
Thanks.
Good stuff. Okay, we're down to item number 7 on the agenda, council liaison reports. Council, if you have any reports or updates you would like to provide regarding the commissions you're liaisons for, as well as any external boards or committees you may be a part of. Let's start with Councilmember House.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I will report out just on the Housing Commission this month. We just had a meeting last week or the week before, and reviewed the 10-year housing plan, 18-month implementation plan that will be coming before council here shortly, as well as the CDBG program. So it was a very informative meeting and definitely a pleasure to sit in and get to hear some of what's coming down the pike.
Go for it.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. Mountain Line returned to full service in January, operating on a regular schedule except as necessary for weather, snow, and school closures during the week of January 15th. Ridership continues to rebound from the decrease during the pandemic. And another update, the 5-year transit plan, Flagstaff in Motion, is now complete and has been adopted. Mountain Line's goal is for partners to have this plan as part of the overall planning documents that are used to guide developer conversations and recommendations.
Councilmember McCarthy.
Thank you. I attended the Transportation Commission meeting this week. We discussed traffic calming plans and other things. And then I'd like to make an announcement regarding Metro Plan, which is the Flagstaff Metropolitan Planning Organization. We deal with traffic issues and transportation issues. Our executive director, Jeff Malbeck, is resigning, and so we'll be looking for a replacement. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. Just want to report that I met with Heidi Hansen with Economic Development, and I'm very pleased to say that we had a great conversation, and we talked about some ways that the Southside Community Association can be more of a part of getting information out to visitors to our city with some additional history that might be interesting for them. The other thing that happened was last week, or this week, can't remember now, this week, I attended the Black Student Union at Northern Arizona University, their meet and greet for faculty, staff, and students and community members. It was their art exhibit along with a reception. And then Saturday, I attended the canceled Martin Luther King Jr. program march that was canceled from January 16th, and they had it last Saturday. So that was a really great program. Thank you.
Councilmember Matthews.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Friday, I spoke at the Trinity Episcopal Church on their art topic, On the Verge, speaking about the housing crisis. It was very well attended and just a really well put together event. Also, I share a board position with Councilmember Sweet, and so we also, at our last board meeting on Mountain Line, the Board of Directors took action to send an updated letter to the City Council regarding conversations with Northern Arizona Healthcare about funding strategies for services to the new proposed location. Although the outcome of the conversation doesn't provide the funding necessary for the expansion of service, we have a clear message for the public and a path forward. Mountain Line will be seeking expansion of the current transit tax funding in 2024.
Thank you so much. I guess that leaves me. So it's been a couple weeks since we had liaison reports. I did attend the January 26th Sustainability Commission meeting. Not much to report from there. It was a bit of a wonky meeting where the logistics and the rigmarole of the sustainability grants were discussed, and also a nice discussion towards the end of how to ask for more money for that in the budgeting process. So keep an eye out for those requests as they come in. The Coconino Plateau Water Advisory Council met on the Friday morning of the 27th. We always meet on the last Friday of the month for a couple hours. We had a presentation from the executive director of Diablo Trust, which was a really nice conversation. And another agenda item of note is just a lengthy discussion around the rural water stewardship legislation that's percolating through the Arizona House and Senate right now. That's going to be one we really want to keep a close eye on, and I hope we can get support from the full council at the appropriate time for that. And I believe we might have an executive session conversation around that, and also an open dialogue here at the dais in the weeks to come. Let's see, what else? There was I don't think anyone mentioned the Spruce Wash Museum Flood Area meeting, community meeting that happened on Thursday the 2nd. Nice, robust conversation, mostly with staff reporting to the public on how those operations have gone and are proceeding, with some great community input and conversations and breakout sessions later on specific to specific neighborhoods. I think that's
Vice
all.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I forgot one.
Go for it.
My brain is foggy today. I also, last week, we had a Indigenous Commission meeting, and the main focus was on water. And we had a really great conversation with some city staff and members of the community on what Flagstaff's plans are and what we've done already to prepare. And the big conversation was for 5 generations out, taking care of our community and 5 generations in front of that. And so it was a really informative conversation, and I think everyone got a lot out of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think that's all. Very nice, Council. Plugging right along here, we're now down to item 8 on today's agenda, consent items. Should be nice and easy as there's only one item, so nothing to be pulled. Council, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as written? Or
So
discussion?
moved.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember McCarthy
I'll second.
and a second by Councilmember Sweet to consider and approve a cooperative purchase contract with Surdux Corporation in the amount of $74,958 for ortho imagery and LiDAR data acquisition. The staff recommendation is to approve the contract and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents. Is there any further discussion? Do we have a presentation on this? Sorry, blew right through that.
No, Vice Mayor, as a consent item, we
Okay,
wouldn't have a
yeah.
formal presentation.
All right, so no ortho imagery conversations this evening. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries, City Clerk. And now it's time to open a hearing for Agenda Item 9A, the consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2022-01, which is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff, amending the Flagstaff City Code, Title 10, Flagstaff Zoning Code, Division 10-80.20, definitions of specialized terms, phrases, and building functions, Section 10-80.20.040, definitions, D, to modify the term duplex, providing for penalties, repeal of conflicting ordinance, severability, and establishing an effective date. And staff's recommended action is that we hold the public hearing, and if approved, have the city clerk read ordinance 2023-01 by title only for the first time. And so without further ado, I hereby do indeed open the public hearing. Staff.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Ben Mejia. I'm a planner for the City of Flagstaff. For your consideration today, we have a zoning code text amendment to modify the definition of duplex. So in 2020, on an ordinance 2020-11, there was a modification to the definition of duplex, which added the term detached duplex. This was an amendment that unfortunately created inconsistencies within the zoning code, where certain parts of the zoning code weren't updated when this amendment was provided. But the amendment before you would restore that definition and would establish those consistencies once more. So the proposal would be to change the definition of duplex to remove that concept of a detached duplex, and the language would be reflected in the definition there. The findings for a zoning code text amendment include the proposed amendment is consistent with and conforms to the objectives and policies of the general plan and any applicable specific plan. The proposed amendment will not be detrimental to the public interest, health, safety, convenience, or welfare of the city, and the proposed amendment is internally consistent with other applicable provisions of the zoning code. So for finding one, we find that this proposal is supported by the following goals of the general plan, which include land use items 1.6, 5.2, and 5.3. And those are largely supported in their capacity, or in this proposal's capacity, to increase the ability to provide or facilitate infill development. Finding number 2, we recognize that the proposed amendment is not anticipated to be detrimental to the public interest, health, safety, convenience, or welfare of the city. And finding number 3, the proposed amendment revises the definition of duplex to reestablish internal consistency of the zoning code. So we're actually, once again, removing inconsistency with this proposal. And lastly, staff recommends the City Council approve the zoning code text amendment in accordance with the findings presented in this report and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation, which was unanimous at 7-0. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Councilmember McCarthy, go for it.
One thing you didn't do is tell us what the practical implications of this are. And if I remember correctly, this will mean that for duplexes, they won't have to go through a CUP process, conditional use permit process. Is that correct? Is that basically why we're doing this?
What we currently consider a detached duplex, which would be a second single-family home on a lot, that would follow the same process that a single family does. So it wouldn't require a concept plan submittal. It would go straight to building plan.
It kind of streamlines the process, which is
Exactly.
good because we're trying to get people to build more housing. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments while the public hearing is open?
Vice Mayor, we do not.
Okay, so I'm getting ready to close the public hearing here. This is your last chance for comments or discussion before I do. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Because once I close this thing, I ain't reopening it. Okay, I am closing the public hearing. Council, do we have a motion? Councilmember House.
Thank you. I move to read ordinance number 2023-01 by title only for the first time.
I'll second.
Wonderful. We have a motion by Councilmember House and a second by Councilmember Sweet. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes. All right, and now,
Vice Mayor,
oh,
can I go ahead and read that
you,
ordinance?
okay.
You did so well when you opened it up. Maybe you can do it. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff, amending the Flagstaff City Code Title 10, Flagstaff Zoning Code, Division 10-80.20, definitions of specialized terms, phrases, and building functions. Section 10-80.20.040, definitions D, to modifying the term duplex, providing for penalties, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and establishing an effective date.
Thank you very much. Okay, and now I'm going to open a brand-new public hearing for Agenda Item 9B, which is the consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2023-02, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff, amending the Flagstaff City Code, Title 10, Flagstaff Zoning Code, Chapter 10-40, specific to zones, Division 10-40.30, non-transect zones, Section 10-40.30.050, industrial heavy in the light industrial zone, industrial zones, to modify Table 10-40.30.050.B to allow manufacturing, processing, heavy and light industrial zone with a conditional use permit, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and establishing an effective date. Staff's recommended action is that we hold the public hearing, and once again, if approved, have the city clerk read ordinance by title only for the first time. And once again, here we go. I'm opening the public hearing. Take it away.
Thank you, Council. My name is Wesley Welch. I'm an associate planner with the City of Flagstaff. So today, I think you said it really well. We're going to present to you a zoning code text amendment to allow the manufacturing, processing, heavy use in the light industrial zone with a conditional use permit. The purpose is to allow a little more flexibility with our industrial zoned land within the city. As you'll see on this map right here, that kind of middle area that goes along 40 and industrial, all of that is light industrial. We only have a few heavy industrial zone parcels, so we just wanted to offer a little more flexibility for any heavy industrial uses that might come in. So this is the table that we'll be changing. You can see right there, the red, that's going to require a use permit. It used to not be permitted at all, and now it'll be required with a conditional use permit. The three findings are the same as Ben just presented. I'm going to go over three of those in a little more depth right here. So the first one is that it's consistent with the general plan and any specific policies. There are a few policies in the general plan that support this zoning code change. The land use goal references the establishment of heavy industrial areas that are well maintained, attractive, and compatible, and the allowance and then the economic development policies reference protecting existing businesses and industrial land uses and allowing for their expansion, as well as promoting variety and flexibility in land use and development options. The second one is that will not be detrimental to the public interest, health, safety, and convenience or welfare. That's the purpose of the conditional use permit with this use, is to mitigate any of those issues that could arise if they were to come through. And then the third one is that it's internally consistent with the other provisions of the zoning code. It is internally consistent and it maintains the zoning code's purpose as a comprehensive set of land use requirements that are straightforward, usable, and easily understood. Staff recommends that City Council approve the zoning code text amendment in accordance with the findings presented, as well as the 7-0 recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Council. Any questions?
Council, questions or comments? Go for it.
I'll just make a quick comment. The whole idea of zoning is to keep incompatible uses away from each other. And in this case, that could be an issue, but we have the CUP process. And part of the process is that all of the adjoining property owners be notified that this is happening. In other words, you can't just sneak it through. So because of those safeguards, I am supportive of this. If it weren't for those safeguards, I'd probably be against it.
Thank you.
Well stated, Councilmember. Any other comments, thoughts, or questions? It doesn't look like we have any public comment.
Vice Mayor, we do not.
Okay. Excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing now, and I'm ready for a motion. Councilmember Matthews.
Vice Mayor, I move to adopt the adoption of ordinance number 2023-02, and how do I say it, and read by title only
For the first time.
for the first time.
So if we could just clarify that that's a motion to read the ordinance at this point, not to adopt.
To read the ordinance.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Matthews to read ordinance number 2023-02 by title only the first time, and a second from Councilmember House. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries, and you do the honors, City Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff, amending the Flagstaff City Code Title 10, Flagstaff Zoning Code, Division 10-40.30, non-transect zones, Section 10-40.30.050, industrial zones, to modify Table 10-40.30.050.b, to allow manufacturing/processing heavy in the light industrial zone with a conditional use permit, providing for penalties, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and establishing an effective date.
Thank you.
Wonderful, that is a mouthful. Okey dokey, we are now down to regular agenda items, starting with 10A, which is the consideration and adoption of a resolution of the Flagstaff City Council naming the tunnel under I-17 along the Sheep Crossing Foots Trail in honor of Cosmic Ray, Raymond J. Brutti. And staff's recommended action is that we read Resolution 2023-03 and then adopt it. Looks like we do have a formal presentation from Martin. Go for it.
We do. Thank you,
It's all yours.
Vice Mayor Aslan, members of the council. My name is Martin Ince. I'm the multimodal transportation planner for the city. The resolution before you would name the Sheep Crossing Tunnel along the Sheep Crossing Foots Trail under I-17 in honor of Raymond J. Brutti, more commonly known as Cosmic Ray. The city has a process for naming facilities that's spelled out in Resolution 2001-73. It was also amended slightly in 2010, also by resolution. We have been through this before. We have named a couple of foots trails in honor of individuals over the years. I think we have also named different city facilities like parks and other kinds of facilities for individuals as well. The process typically starts with a formal request to the city manager. The resolution anticipates that these requests are generally made by citizens or citizen-initiated. Once we receive a request, it's routed through the appropriate commissions and committees for review. When that process is completed, it's forwarded to City Council, who makes the final decision and adopts the name or the renaming by resolution, and that's where we are tonight. Throughout that process, we do formal community outreach to make sure that the public is aware of the proposal and has an opportunity to provide their thoughts and comments on it. When we name things for individuals, the resolution also talks about the criteria and the policy for doing that. A person must have contributed to Flagstaff in a definitive way, be accepted as a local, state, or national hero, or have historic significance. And in the case of an individual, they must have been deceased for at least 2 years, or if they've contributed in a significant way to civic service in Flagstaff, that period is shortened to a year. And in this case, being a foots trail, we have routed the request through the city's pedestrian and bicycle advisory committees, through the Transportation Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission. And you can see the dates listed here. All of that happened late last night. All those bodies make recommendations to City Council, and all recommended to you approval of the name request. We also conducted community outreach in association with the request. Right off the bat, friends and family collected 150 signatures on a petition. We opened a community survey on the Flagstaff Community Forum and asked very simply, are you in favor of the proposal to rename the tunnel? And then provided people an opportunity to make some comments. In that time, we received 362 responses, of which 92.5% were in favor of naming that tunnel for Cosmic Ray. That does leave 7.5% who had some concerns about the name, and I've listed kind of the two major comments that were made when people did not indicate their support for it. One concern was they thought that something else ought to be named for him. So in other words, instead of thinking of just a tunnel, could we name an entire trail for Cosmic Ray? And the second concern is to maintain the sheep history of that tunnel, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. A little bit about Cosmic Ray Broody. He was born in 1946 and moved to Flagstaff in 1979. He originally worked as a mechanic at the original Cosmic Cycles, and sometime around then he adopted the moniker Cosmic Ray. I've been told via oral history that at that time people in Flagstaff tended to go by nicknames or mononyms. I can't verify that to be true, but that might be the case here. In 1988, he published a guide for hiking and biking in Flagstaff and really all of Arizona called Fat Tire Tales and Trails. I'm willing to guess that more of a few of us here tonight have one version or another of that on our bookshelves at home. Ray passed in October of 2020 at the age of 74. And just to kind of bring us back to the process and the resolution, we've listed a few reasons why we think that the naming is justified, principally because the book that I mentioned, Fat Tire Tales and Trails, came out at a time when mountain biking was really a brand new activity. The book became popular and helped put Flagstaff on the map, I think, in a way that helped us become a destination for mountain biking, hiking, and other outdoor activity. For many years, that was sort of the book was a definitive guidebook for Flagstaff trails. It became popular, at least locally, and made Ray somewhat of an iconic and visible figure around town. Ray also contributed to promoting bicycling in Flagstaff in other ways. He conducted a number of free maintenance clinics and repair opportunities for different events for free. He helped match people who needed transportation with old bicycles, and he was always willing to help pick up trash along foots trails when he encountered it. A little bit about the Sheep Crossing Foots Trail. This is an aggregate surface trail at the kind of the southwest end of town. It's a little under a mile in length and connects the Ponderosa Trails neighborhood with Fort Tuthill. And in doing that, it goes underneath I-17 in the tunnel that we're talking about. That tunnel is dedicated for ped and bike use. There's actually two halves to it. Both are 10 by 10 in size and about 300 feet in length. We have used the south half of the tunnel for ped and bikes, and we keep local drainage going through the north half. The tunnel we retrofitted to accommodate ped and bike use by putting up some of the fencing, connecting it with a trail on either end, and putting lighting through the tunnel. But it was originally built around 1960 as a way of getting sheep across the interstate. And in this context, when I talk about sheep, we're talking about herds of thousands of sheep at a time. In fact, this was part of an established route that was referred to as a sheep driveway that went all the way across the state and was used to move large herds of sheep between summer pastures in northern Arizona, including up in the peaks, and their winter pastures, which I think were typically down by around Yuma. And so every year the sheep would make 2 long trips between their summer and winter homes. I should mention that this was I don't think that this particular tunnel was directly on one of the main sheep driveways. It was kind of an offshoot. And I think it specifically served the function of getting sheep to the Auser Ranch, which is still in existence right at the corner of Lake Mary Road and High Country Trail, kind of back in the trees. I don't believe they use it for sheep anymore. If they do, they are more than welcome. We're happy to share that with the livestock. And of course, the history of sheep herding is integral to the history of Basque people in Arizona, and particularly in Flagstaff. That's a significant part of our history. And it's something that I'll talk about in a slide or two, but it's what really people were talking about when they expressed some concern about naming it for Cosmic Ray. And as we conclude the presentation, I'll talk about ways that we might be able to manage both of those things, because I think both are important. Here's a map of the trails, of the tunnel. This is the Ponderosa Trails neighborhood. The large green square is Fort Tuthill. The purple line is the sheep crossing trail, and the tunnel is in kind of the middle of it, going under I-17. And then just a couple of images. This is shortly after construction, so all of that, what looks like a farmer's field is now growing with vegetation. This is the approach on the east side, and here's the approach on the west side. So you can see the 2 concrete boxes. A memorial is really the thing that would be a physical reminder, tell people what the name is, and give some indication of what that history is. It could take different forms, including a plaque or a sign or some artwork or a bench. That is really part of a separate process. What's before you tonight is just the formal naming. We have begun the process of thinking about memorials. As I mentioned before, we are working on what we might do at the tunnel to acknowledge both items, one being to honor the memory of Cosmic Ray and his contributions to the city, and the second is to acknowledge and remember and make people aware of the sheep history of that tunnel. And again, I think both of them are worthy of consideration. Some of the thoughts that we've had internally about how we do both those things successfully at one location are to leave the wing walls, kind of the concrete approaches on either end, for memorial or artwork or something for Cosmic Ray. In the meantime, the city would initiate a project to have some interpretive signing or information available about the sheep history and the Basque history and how that fits in. The tunnel itself, I mentioned, is 300 feet long. If you've been through it, it's painted a lovely shade of battleship gray. A mural could go through the inside of it, and I think the city's BPAC, Beautification of Public Arts Commission, has programmed that as a project, but that may be several years down the road. I should mention that if the hospital, NEH, relocates to this part of town, the street adjacent to it, Beulah, will be widened. We go under Beulah with this tunnel, so when Beulah is widened, this tunnel will become longer, and anything that we do on the west end of it will have to be reconstructed. So we have to kind of plan ahead for that as we move forward. There is an opportunity, I think, when the hospital does that, to have more of kind of a public plaza at that west end. And here I think of, as an example, might be the Butler undercrossing at Butler and Ponderosa, where on the south side, the 2 trails come together, and there's kind of a little landscape area before you go under the tunnel. If that comes to pass, that may give us a different opportunity for the interpretive signs or benches or the memorials.
Can you go back to the map while you're talking about that?
Of the Butler underpass? I don't have one handy.
Not Butler, just the I-17.
Oh.
Just have it overhead there. It's just, for me, it's nice to be able to look at that while you're talking about all these features.
Yes, so you can see the 3 gray lines kind of going north to south. 2 of those lines are the travel lanes for I-17, and the third one is Beulah, because they're kind of adjacent. The tunnel goes under all 3 at once, but when Beulah gets widened, that tunnel's going to have to get wider on the west side. And I think that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any question. I do know that friends and family of Ray's are here, and I think they filled out comment cards, so you're invited to hear
We
from
have
them as well.
several public comment cards ready to go. I do want to take questions right now, though, while Martin is at the mic. But if you have any discussion, if it veers into mostly just commentary or discussion, let's wait till after public comment for that. Councilmember House.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and this is a really exciting opportunity, I think. I did just want to give some voice and space for the concern that was raised about the naming and the retention of that Basque sheep herding history. And just to clarify, is this so we're not proposing renaming the full trail, correct? We would be retaining the name of the sheep trail and just naming the tunnel, is that correct?
Your Honor, Councilmember House, that is correct. The tunnel would stay the sheep crossing trail. I'm sorry, the trail would stay the sheep crossing trail by name. Only the tunnel would be named for Cosmic Ray.
Councilmember McCarthy and then Sweet.
Thank you. So that trail is called the Sheep Trail, Sheep Crossing Trail, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Vice Mayor, I'd like to make a couple comments, and the reason I'd like to make them now is because some of the people that are going to speak in public participation on this might want to respond to things that I've said. So
I'll allow it.
Okay, thank you, my friend. Earlier tonight, I told a real quick story, so I'm going to tell another real quick story. One time I did a bicycle ride from Bright Angel Lodge at the Grand Canyon down to Nogales, Mexico. And as we were coming through Flagstaff, my crank was a little loose. So we stopped in at Cosmic Cycles on San Francisco Street, and they fixed it for me, and I tried to pay him, and he wouldn't take any money. So I have very good memories of that. To me, there's a couple issues here. Do we want to honor a Cosmic Ray? Absolutely. I don't think there's any discussion about that. I do have some concerns about renaming the sheep crossing tunnel. And I might mention that I did sit through, I think, 2 or 3 of those meetings, transportation meeting for sure, discussing this very issue. And there was a consensus, but it certainly wasn't unanimous. Some people were concerned that we should not rename something that already exists, Sheep Crossing Tunnel, and name it something else. So it might make sense to name something else after Cosmic Ray. We definitely should honor him. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I'll mention that one of the property owners on the west side wrote a letter to council. His name is Charlie Odegaard, and he lives right over there. And of course, most of us know him that he was on city council until fairly recently. And he, again, wants to honor Cosmic Ray, but not by renaming the tunnel. He thinks it has so much history that it would be inappropriate to change the name of it. So as we discuss this tonight, I mean, in my mind, there's 2 possibilities. One is that we could do the naming as proposed and as recommended by our commissions. I admit that, and that has a lot of weight in my mind. But another option would be we could send it back to the commissions and say, hey, is there another trail that we could name in his honor that might give him as much recognition without changing the history of the existing name of the Sheep Crossing Tunnel. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Councilmember Harris.
Can you tell me if there was a particular reason why that particular tunnel that they wanted to name that particular? Is it because maybe he spent a lot of time there? Why? What was the reasoning?
Councilmember Harris, there is, I will leave that, answering that question to his friends and family. I think they can answer it better than
I have a quick question, and this is a bit of a leading question, but I'm still curious what the actual answer to it is. So, is there anything in our laws or procedures that precludes additional naming of other things after an individual, should we take the step of naming this tunnel after Ray? So my guess is that we could name other things after the same individual as well, down the road, so to speak.
Vice Mayor, I know of nothing that precludes the city council from doing this. I would look to the city attorney just to make sure that.
I would have to read the resolution really quick. I don't think it precludes that, but I can get back to you.
Okay. Yeah, if you're able to do that in real time here, let us know. Meanwhile, if there aren't any, oh, sorry, go for it. Didn't mean to forget about you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sweet.
I do have some comments, but I'll save those until after. Question, Martin, have you or has anyone considered combining the names? So something that says
Cosmic Sheep.
Sheep's Tunnel in memory of Cosmic Ray.
Your Honor, Councilmember Sweet, we have not. We have talked about how we might share the tunnel and the memorial and acknowledgement. We've not talked about sharing the name. Again, because this is these requests are citizen initiated, we're responding to their request. I would defer to the friends and family to weigh in on that proposal.
Thank you. And as we move through the discussion, if anyone has comments on that, I'd like to hear them.
Great, let's go ahead and move into public comment here. I have some cards. I don't know if our speakers want to speak in a particular order, just let me know. But without any other direction there, I'm going to go ahead and call up Tio to start us off.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor Aslan and council members. Thank you for allowing me to make my comments here. My name is Teo Mellis. I've lived in Flagstaff since 1981. I reside at 112 North Aztec Street downtown. I knew Cosmic Ray almost 40 years. Met him when I first came here as a student. Bought my first mountain bike from him and Nelson Miles at Cosmic Cycles. Ray and I spent a lot of time riding bikes together over the years. Sometimes mountain, but mostly touring and even in Europe. But we frequently rode together almost every day, somewhere around town. And his last summer before he passed away in 2020, the pandemic was on and we were frequenting the airport and Swift because he liked to drink coffee wherever he could get it. And we would ride out to the vicinity where the tunnel was being reconstructed and remodeled and prepared for use. And it made a big impression on us. We knew that developing for decades and it was an ongoing process. And the idea of being able to get across those 6 lanes of major traffic on Interstate and 89A by going through a tunnel we knew existed, but hardly anybody would go through there. It was dirty, it was full of debris. Didn't really realize the sheep history at all, quite frankly. I never talked with Ray about it. But he was very, very much an advocate of bicycling and hiking and outdoor activities. And I don't know if I can show this on the camera. He spent a lot of time on his own helping people with bike clinics that he would conduct here in the city. If he knew somebody was interested in starting to ride a bike and didn't have a bicycle, Ray would pick up old bikes and he'd fix them up and he'd give them to people. And yes, sure. And he was very motivated in helping people enjoy themselves in this wonderful city of ours and be outdoors. And so anyway, we were riding frequently and we were seeing, yeah, there's a major improvement here. They're connecting the Foots Trail with Fort Tuthill. And well, Ray passed away on October 2nd and the tunnel was open for use, I think probably a month later. And I rode a lot with Ray, and there are other tunnels in this town, but they're not nearly 300 feet long. And some of them over near his house, he would really enjoy riding through tunnels. Like a kid, he would ring his bell, he would make noise. You know, he was 74 years old when he died, but he was still a kid at heart, and he loved riding a bicycle. So after he passed away, I had a chance to ride through the tunnel for the first time, and I was so impressed with the construction, the French drain, the lighting, the paint. I just thought, well, you know, my friend Kay, who's actually the proposer of this, said, I'd like to really do something, you know, in his memory, but, you know, a bench or, I said, this tunnel's 300 feet long. It's a big deal.
Teo, could you speak to some of the other questions that were asked during our initial discussion?
Yes, so the issue of why the tunnel and not a segment of the foots. The tunnel's located in quite a pastoral place, even though it goes under a freeway. And on both sides, you have the largest county park, and on the other side, it's open area. And Ray was very much into the outdoors. He was, the last thing he was working on was a guide for Grand Canyon visitors. So he was an outdoors person. You know, he rode in the city all the time. He used Route 66. But, you know, the outdoor environment, the beauty out in that area, it seemed to be a place like if he would have been able to ride through the tunnel, I'm sure he would have enjoyed it. Fort Tuthill was a favorite place to go. And I just think it's more appropriate than a busy section of the city foots where we have a railroad and oncoming traffic and noise and things like that. So that was the main reason. There was never an intention to undermine the history of the Basque shepherds at all. And I believe that combining these things is a great opportunity to do both if you're willing to consider that. He was into animal husbandry. I don't have any photos of him with sheep, but here's his favorite T-Rex. Anyway, thank you for your time and allowing me to speak. Sorry I went long.
Thank you,
If there are
Teo.
other questions that I could address too. Kay Pfeiffer, I believe, is online. She's the main proposer, and I think she's waiting in the comment area as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have a card for Kate, just FYI, but,
She joined online and she was having some problems with
okay.
her computer.
That's just a heads up for our city clerk staff. Let's go on to our next card, which is Joel Geist.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name is Joel Geist. I am an artist currently attached to helping develop some ideas about what could be decorative projects on either side. Mostly, we're starting with thinking mostly about the wings, as mentioned. I'm a mural artist in town. I've only been here a couple years, which also gives, I don't think I have to speak to this, it sounds like, but as a fair newcomer to Flagstaff, Ray was an ambassador. He was the first person, you know, from Flagstaff I knew anything about. His guidebook was the first thing that was put in my hands. So that side, it sounds like you're all in support that there should be things with him. The main thing I could contribute is that artistically, when I was told about all this, it made perfect sense for him to be combined with the sheep history. That might seem sort of odd to some people, but with his cartoon style and, you know, that being the way that he was known, I immediately, you know, was picturing Far Side type things. This is just one example of a mock-up of a sheep herd with a dog on a bicycle, kind of a, you know, combining elements. That would be the long wing east side, I believe. And we have, I've done some other mock-ups with sheep, and then the other side mostly focusing on Ray and his bicycle, but the idea of combining Ray, you know, because again, the first thing that I saw about him was art of Ray in nature with animals, that cartoony, friendly, you know, depiction. So the combination of the two, at least artistically, makes perfect sense to me, and I think that's the main thing I could contribute. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Joel. Those are some exciting, inspiring conceptual ideas. Okay, our next speaker is Adam Shimani.
It's actually Adam Sheep. Good evening, Vice Mayor Aslan and members of council, city leadership and staff, and members of the public. It's great to be here. My name is Adam Shimoni. This isn't Adam Shimoni, and this is really fun being back at this mic. This is such a trip. But You know, I'm here to speak in support of this tunnel being named after a cosmic ray, while also respecting the Basque history and also the indigenous history around sheep in this region. Cosmic Ray was a local legend who inspired so many to get out on the trails, both by foot and by bike. He will forever be remembered as an iconic figure in town who you would often see riding from one end of Flagstaff to the other. He's someone that you'd often see at Macy's, enjoying a cup of coffee and having hours-long conversations with locals. Teo, Kate, and Marcia have worked closely with Martin, myself, City Manager Clifton, and others in the city to get to this point. And I'm very grateful for this process. At first, I remember having conversations with Martin and others and saying, can we do this a little quicker? And Martin held the course and said, no, we have to stay to this course. And so here we are. And how great is it that we're finally here? But I want to say thank you to all the leadership that has helped us get to this point. I've attended many of the Bicycle Advisory Committee meetings and Transportation Commission meetings and the Pedestrian Advisory Committee meetings like yourself, Councilmember McCarthy, and witnessed the conversations around this topic as well. And at first glance, I thought to myself that, you know, is this really the right location for Cosmic Ray? You know, I thought maybe along Route 66 in the Foots would be a more visible location. But after talking to Teo and others, I learned quickly that that trail isn't necessarily something of pride in Cosmic Ray's eyes because of the lack of maintenance and upkeep and quality of the trail. There's a lot of cracks. It's not exactly state-of-the-art bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, although we're very grateful for that infrastructure that we have. And that there was a lot more pride around a brand new tunnel that was very much focused on bike ped and really designed well. So it grew on me, the idea grew on me, and I think there is a win-win and a way to accommodate both. You know, some of the concerns that I've heard tonight from you all, you know, I'm thinking that since the trail isn't being changed, and it's just the segment that's the tunnel, I personally do feel comfortable with us naming the tunnel specifically out of respect to Cosmic Ray or finding some kind of hybrid. But knowing that the trail is going to remain within the respect to the sheep, I think that you all have the green light, in my opinion, to name this segment and continue in the will of Ray's friends and family. The preliminary artwork I've seen, which Joel just gave you a teaser to, I think integrates the two concepts well. And I was going to say, imagine sheep. Now imagine sheep on bicycles, but you already got a visual. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a nice conversation about this topic.
Thank you, Adam. I have one more comment card here from Marcia Weisner. Come on down. And we do have some online comments after that. 3 minutes.
So, greetings to you, Vice Mayor and Council. And I just wanted to thank you for considering the honoring of my late husband, Ray Brody. And this stuff was his life. This is the 1988 version of Fat Tire Tales and Trails, and this was the latest one I could find. So it's gone through a lot. When I first saw this, it was my first realization that Ray was a writer. Ray was a really funny writer. I don't know if any of you have read any of the books. Would you, I just want to get him on the camera, but is it okay if I pass
Please pass
these
those around, yeah. I'd love to take a look. Especially that early 1988 one.
Yeah.
First print.
Whenever Ray was working on, one of the very many versions of his book, he really liked to revise it a lot. He wanted to keep it up to date. You couldn't talk to him. He'd say, okay, I'm cutting diamonds now. And so he worked really hard on this, and he really liked his identity as Cosmic Ray in the town. If this had come up before he passed away, he probably wouldn't have gone, oh, but he would have been secretly thrilled. So, and many people have mentioned, if there was a kid who needed a bike, Ray would find a bike and fix it up for him. He would, if there was a kid whose bike wasn't working right, he would fix it up. I guess you don't need to know that he had 52 screwdrivers, but he really I really like to work on things. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say, was that we would all be thrilled if something were named for Ray, if it's the Sheep Tunnel Trail, the Sheep Trail Tunnel. He wouldn't mind sharing it with the sheep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marcia.
Yes.
Councilmember McCarthy.
I find it very touching that you're here. Thank you. My question is, Mr. Odegaard suggested that we name the new tunnel that's not built yet, that goes under Route 66 and under the railroad tracks just west of Beaver. Would it be your preference that the tunnel on Sheep Crossing Trail, that would be a better place to put his name now? Can you comment to that? Am I
frankly-
rambling? I think you get the idea, though.
Right, right. What I would like is some place that, there's some really funny stuff in there. Some place that would allow artwork that expressed Ray's joy in bicycling. So as to my preference for the sheep crossing, I like that sheep and bicycle artwork. I can't say that I would prefer that that be the place. Does that make sense? In other words, the Sheep Crossing Trail provides an excellent opportunity for some really good mural artwork.
Right, and another thing is that the other tunnel I talked about won't be built for a couple more years, where this we could do now.
Yes.
You're not
So
arguing with me.
I'm going to leave that up to your sense of it, your sense of the community and what can be done.
Again, thank you for coming tonight.
All right. Thank you.
This is a historical document. This should be preserved. Okay, I think, oh, no, we have some online comments. Cue us up here.
Vice Mayor and Council, our first commenter today is Kay Piper. Kay, you may go ahead and address Vice Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
Kay, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, we're on. I'm so appreciative of the consideration of the mayor and all, Martin and Teo, all who have put so much time and effort into this project. And thank you for letting me speak. Interesting technical difficulties. A funny thing is I have a new puppy, and the puppy chewed up my mag connector to my computer today, so I had no computer access. I'm using right now actually Ray's old iPad to connect in, but anyway, that's an aside. But as far as I worked with the beautification committee, I submitted a proposal for the naming of the tunnel and to have some artwork done. And I spoke with some local mural artists the mural mice who are no longer there, and got some idea of the costs, which seemed to be insurmountable. And that's kind of where I ran into some problems with fundraising. And so with respect to naming this tunnel and in Ray's memory and having the artwork, it seems to be a perfect place to be able to commemorate the sheep crossing and the Basque, his story. If we can work on the funding and get some mural painting that honors the current history of the tunnel as well as Ray's memory, it seems like a perfect combination of effort for this naming this crossing in Ray's honor. So I don't think I need to say anything more about Ray. I think that's been clear that he deserves. He is definitely deserves having a plaque or something in his honor for all he has offered to the Flagstaff community and the bicycling community. And so I would like to continue with a proposal with the beautification committee and to find some funding. Like I said, it seems like a perfect opportunity to be able to honor both the history of the tunnel as well as Ray's memory.
Thank you very much, Kay. Any questions for Kay? We appreciate you coming online and sharing those thoughts.
Thanks for hearing me out. Thank you so much.
I think that's it for public comment. Now we're going to turn inward and have a conversation here. I'll just open very quickly by saying I personally very clearly see a path forward here. I don't know that any of these things are mutually exclusive or too competitive in nature. But let's open it up for comments. I'd like to hear what folks have to say. Councilmember House.
Thank you. So I agree with you, and I actually really like Councilmember Sweet's proposal of the potential to have the shared name on that tunnel. In terms of maintaining and preserving that history, I do, I guess I'm still seeing the distinction between the fact that the Foots Trail itself is still preserving the name and the history and that heritage, with the tunnel that thus far has not been named, being an opportunity to honor Cosmic Ray and that history. I have a lot of, as we were going through the conversation, I was thinking of I used to participate in different mural projects back east, and one of my favorite models for those was always the historic muralizations, where they essentially took you on a journey from past to present. And just imagining the beautiful representation of starting from sheep herders as you enter that tunnel, exiting to bike riders and some representation of Cosmic Ray. So I think there's a lot of beautiful things that can be done there, and finding ways to join our history with our present and our future, honestly, and just finding ways to accomplish all that we're trying to do here. I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I look forward to further council conversation about what that might look like. Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
I live out in Ponderosa Trails, and I know the area well. Also, just for an FYI, there are sheep that graze on that land once you turn into Ponderosa Trails. And every time my brother comes out, he walks down and visits the sheep. So, a couple things. First of all, the trail was there before the tunnel. And so in my mind, I'm seeing a distinct difference. I'm not thinking that we're naming, that he's sharing the trail name with the trail, but the tunnel that just got finished a couple years ago, I guess. Yeah. And so to me, it's a distinct difference. And I like the idea of, the way I would describe it, I would say Cosmic Ray Tunnel on the Sheep Crossing Trail, Foots Trail. That would be the way I would describe it to people if I were describing it, so that it does distinctly give each group their own identity, because it's the trail that the sheep cross and that we use, and the tunnel is something different. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. I like the sound of that. Councilmember Matthews, you're up.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and I like Councilmember Harris's suggestion. What I'm concerned about, and it sounds like that it's already being brought forward, is losing the history. I mean, we're here in Black History Month talking about remembering that history, things that I never learned in high school because we didn't talk about it back then. So to think about just totally doing away with something that was so strong in our history in Flagstaff, the sheep herders, the Basque sheep herders. I have a family lineage to that, and my mother's family changed their names because it was something of shame back then to be a sheep herder. You were labeled, and so it was hard to find our heritage. So I think preserving that and honoring Cosmic Ray. It just sounds like he was such a great contributor to our community, and especially our bike community, I think is very well deserved, and I want to do that, but I want to make sure that we are not erasing the sheep herders' history, but just removing their name has some unforeseen consequences. So I wouldn't be in favor of that, but if we can combine the two, so we're honoring our history of Flagstaff and our community and honoring Cosmic Ray, I would be in favor of that.
Thank you, Councilmember. Jim?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We've been talking for 45 minutes or so, and Councilmember Harris, she summarized it all in the phrasing that you suggested, and with that, I'm very supportive. I think you hit the nail on the head. Thank you, Ms. Harris.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm very happy to see this conversation come forward. I knew Cosmic Ray from back in the early 90s when I worked at Macy's Coffee House. And Ray would come in, sell his books, and we would talk bikes. And as a matter of fact, I bought my first bike with Ray and rode on my first trail off of his recommendation. I have several of Ray's books on my shelf to this day, and I still use them. And I believe that this is an important dedication to someone who helped shape our biking and outdoor community. I also believe that we need to honor the sheep's history. And I would like to keep the joint name on the table. I like Councilmember Harris's suggestion. And I just want to make sure that we do celebrate both of these entities as we move forward. And I would like to just say that I enjoy the idea of the plaque, the mural, the artwork, interpretive signs that would celebrate both Cosmic Ray and the sheep's history. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sweet. So my 2 cents on this, I did not know Cosmic Ray, which is too bad. I wish I had gotten a chance to be around him more. I really don't see this as a zero-sum dynamic. It doesn't. I don't feel that there's any particular tension here that can't be resolved. Councilmember Harris, the way that phrasing slipped off your tongue is very natural. It flows really nicely, and I think we should really follow up with that. The important thing for me is at the end of all this, how the public art and the memorial comes together and interfaces and locks into place with the naming of this tunnel. Really appreciate, Joel, you sharing some of those conceptual designs. Obviously, there will be a very public process through which any finalized art goes through. But I like where you're at. I like the sensibility that you're showcasing there. You know, there's something interesting here. I don't know if the word cosmic has anything to do with Flagstaff's dark sky stellar history. We are honoring Astrotourism Month right now. Whether it's coincidental or somehow tied in together, there's a cosmic poetry to the conversations we're having this evening. You know, we're also going to be talking about some other renaming and rebranding tonight. So just a really interesting nexus for some of these topics and conversations. I don't think one threatens the other at all. I would love to see the Basque shepherds memorialized as well in this effort. You know, I recently went to Disneyland again, and remember Space Mountain, and you know when that ride launches, you kind of go up through a tunnel with some really cool, mesmerizing lights, flashing lights, and effects. I wonder, even just thinking out loud, not to micromanage this in any way whatsoever, but just thinking out loud about how funky could we get with this in terms of honoring Ray's personality. You know, staying within the lines, of course, of what's reasonable and safe. You know, something that goes a little bit above and beyond in terms of public art and interactive could be really interesting. And how do we tie that to Flagstaff's dark sky history and Lowell and our own cosmic identity. So just thinking out loud about some of those things, I think at this point, we're probably ready for a motion, if someone wants to offer one. Again, this is going to be a process. The other thing I wanted to just be very clear about too is this, I don't think honoring Cosmic Ray needs to stop at a tunnel. There could be other ways in which his name shows up around town as well. Again, this doesn't preclude or lock us out of anything. I don't know, City Attorney Finsel, if you want to confirm that or deny it. And then I have one more thought.
Yeah, I won't deny it. The resolution that Martin referenced has no mention of anything about limiting the names to one facility or limiting the naming of one facility per person, so.
So this doesn't shut down any other future conversations around this topic either. The other thing is that, you know, given the possibility of the hospital moving into the area, one way or the other in the next 20, 30 years and beyond, this area will have grown immensely, and this will be a very, very high-trafficked, very popular foots destination and highly utilized tool and artery for bike ped. So that's something to keep in mind too. This isn't, we're not delegating Ray's memory to some odd corner of northern Arizona. This is going to be very much a living corridor from now into the future for sure. So do we have a recommendation on how to proceed? Councilmember McCarthy?
I guess I have a question for Mr. Fensel, our city attorney. There seems to be a consensus around the wording that Ms. Harris proposed. Is that inconsistent with the resolution, the way it's written now? I guess what I'm getting at, let me just...
Councilmember Harris knows how to answer that question.
Yeah, I think maybe. You want to direct it to Councilmember Harris? You can.
Well, I guess my question is, can we just say, you know, we approve the resolution, or do we need to do a little editing in it when we make the motion?
I think you would need to do a little editing, because if I heard the language that Councilmember Harris used, it was Cosmic Ray Tunnel on Sheep Crossing Trail, and if that's actually how you would like to name the tunnel instead of, as the resolution currently has it, as the Cosmic Ray Tunnel, then yeah, you would want to say as amended by the language proposed by Councilmember Harris.
So Ms. Harris maybe should make the motion.
Councilmember McCarthy, maybe you go ahead and make the motion. You know how to do motions after 6 years on council. Very
Well, I can do the motion, that's not it. My question for council would be, are we doing the motion as terms of what's here, or are we doing a new motion? Because it's not what the citizens, this is what the citizens asked. I'm suggesting something that's a little bit different.
Yes.
Just a little bit. So which motion am I making?
So, Councilmember, you would make a motion to go forward with the agenda item with an amendment, and then mention what the amendment is.
If I could, you could say something to the effect of motion to read resolution number 2023-03 with the amendment to name the tunnel Cosmic Ray Tunnel on Sheep Crossing Trail by title only. Does that make? And I can show you my laptop if you want it.
Go for it.
Try this then. I move to read resolution number 2023-03 by title only, with the recommendations of the language that it should be named Cosmic Ray Tunnel on Sheep's Crossing Foots Trail.
I'll second.
Do we need the phrase on Foots Trail? I mean, that seems...
I heard it as on Sheep Crossing Foots Trail.
Okay, I guess
my question... It's called the Sheep Crossing Trail, right?
Yeah, I don't think we need the word foots. And just, so shall I make a motion, an amendment?
Or you can ask Councilmember Harris to restate withdraw that motion and restate it.
Can we take that one word out? Because it's just Sheep Crossing Trail.
So just withdraw, go ahead and withdraw your.
I'll just withdraw the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
And say it again with the, okay. Move to read resolution number 2023-03 by title only with the addition to the language of naming the tunnel, the Flagstaff, naming the tunnel along the Sheep Crossing Trail, Cosmic Ray.
I would.
No.
I would, why don't you withdraw that motion really quick?
Okay, I withdraw it, so. Okay, so I'm withdrawing the motion, and I'm amending my motion to, no, I'm just withdrawing the motion, and so I'm going to move to read resolution number 2023-03 with amendment to name tunnel Cosmic Ray Tunnel on Sheep Crossing Trail by title only.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Councilmember Sweet seconds the motion. Any other discussion? And thank you for that little bit of house cleaning there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Definitely. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. City Clerk.
Thank you. A resolution of the Flagstaff City Council naming the tunnel under I-17 along the Sheep Crossing Foots Trail in honor of Cosmic Ray, Raymond J. Broody, as amended.
Give me a second here. Okay, so we don't need to adopt that now?
Yes,
Okay, we
we
do
do.
need to adopt it.
So I'll move to adopt
you.
Resolution 2023-03 as read.
And I'll second that. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution is adopted. All right. Okay, that takes us to our last regular agenda item, 10B. Consideration and adoption of resolution number 2023-04, which is a resolution of the Flagstaff City Council declaring for purposes of section 1.1502 of the Federal Treasury Regulations, official intent to be reimbursed in connection with certain capital expenditures related to the November 2022 election for Proposition 441 and 442 projects, as approved by voters, and establishing an effective date. Staff's recommended action is that we read Resolution 2023-04 and then adopt it. And Rick Tatter is on deck, up to bat.
Yes, good afternoon, Vice Mayor and City Council members. Rick Tatter, Management Service Director. The resolution before you, 2023-04, is really a procedural requirement related to federal treasury regulations that sets forth the city's intent that we will reimburse ourselves for capital expenditures that incur prior to the issuance of debt. By approving this reimbursement resolution, it allows the city to issue debt when the time is appropriate versus issuing the debt prior to expenditures being made. This resolution is related to the November 2022 ballot measures, which voters did approve. These two ballot measures authorize the City of Flagstaff to issue general obligation bonds, which are repayable through secondary property taxes. This resolution is for up to $57,285,000 related to general obligation bonds for Prop 441, which was investing in City of Flagstaff wildfire suppression, stormwater flood mitigation, and wastewater treatment infrastructure, as well as up to $20 million in general obligation bonds related to Proposition 442 to creating rental and home ownership opportunities for residents of Flagstaff. You've received an update from city staff last week at the budget retreat. related to the progress on these bond expenditures. And while we are still in the planning stages of the projects and when they will be delivered, we are also trying to manage the matching of the timing of the funds and when we want to have the cash on hand, which ties into issuing the debt. We will not issue 100% of this debt up front, but we'll be strategic in issuing our debt for timing and to make sure we minimize the interest expense incurred by issuing too early for debt. It is my intention to issue a portion of this debt later this fiscal year, and I will be bringing it back an ordinance for council for you to approve my authorization of issuing that debt. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Rick, very much. Any conversation? No questions, no comments? Do we have a motion?
I move to read resolution number 2023-04 by title only.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Sweet and a second by Councilmember House. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes. City Clerk, go ahead and read that for us.
A resolution of the Flagstaff City Council declaring for purposes of Section 1.1502 of the Federal Treasury Regulations official intent to be reimbursed in connection with certain capital expenditures related to the November 2022 election for Propositions 441 and 442 projects as approved by voters and establishing an effective date.
Wonderful. Now it's time to adopt it. If we have the votes, do we have a motion?
I move to adopt resolution 2023-04.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember McCarthy and a second by Councilmember Sweet. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That resolution passes. You're welcome, Rick. Okay, we are moving right along here down to future agenda item requests, and both of these are mine, so I guess it looks like the Vice Mayor's show continues here in full force. I will, of course, take these one at a time, and I hope we can get at least 2 other council members to support these conversations moving along. The first is in regard to the renaming of Agassiz Peak. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Am I saying it right? Agassiz Peak?
Well, it's actually moot if we change the name.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But the reason I'm bringing this forward at the start of our new council is that this is a topic being lifted up by our community. In particular, I want to honor our Indigenous youth voices who are very interested in seeing this conversation happen. And at this point, you know, we're just giving a thumbs up to staff to sort of invest some resources into looking into this. I imagine it would be a process. Ultimately, I think it would end with an act of Congress, which is going to take some planning and some work. But without getting trapped into some of the logistics and the merits of this too much, what I really want to impart upon this council about this is that I'm looking to engage our Indigenous neighbors in a long overdue conversation in how we value our sacred places and how we honor that. I don't particularly have anything against the name Agassiz. I think there's merits to that conversation, but that's not what my request is about. My request isn't about the past, it's about the future. So I'll open it up to conversation, and then I think we have public comment. And City Clerk, help me figure out how best to slip that in.
Vice Mayor, it's really up to you how you would like to do that. We can certainly take public comment first and then comments from the council, or if there's some clarifying questions, we can do that
Does anyone
first.
want to say anything before we hear from public comment particularly? Wait. Councilmember Harris, would you like to speak real quickly?
In whatever we do, I just want us to make sure that we're not promising something that we can't do in our discussion. So that's just, for me, it's just, we want to make sure that the young people who are bringing this to us, that they understand what we can do and what we cannot do in whatever this process is. I don't want them to feel that we promised them something and we didn't deliver.
Absolutely. A point taken. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I actually had a conversation with Rose Tohi here about this fair item issue, and I don't know how to present it or split it up, but as you mentioned, renaming a peak will take an act of Congress. Can we look at two different avenues and look at renaming these different peaks on Flagstaff marketing? As people come in and we on our maps and stuff, we take that control, because I can't imagine how long it takes to rename a mountain or a peak through a federal process, but our marketing probably could be done a lot faster. So I just wanted to bring that up, and Rose and I had a little brief conversation about that, and I think that would be a great step in honoring, if we move forward on it, to recognize the request and not wait for 20 years for it to be changed if we so deemed.
Wonderful comment, duly noted. Thank you very much. I think that falls under the purview of the fair as laid out. And if we were to get the votes to move forward on this, it seems to me that could very much be a part of the conversation. All right, I'm ready for public comment at this point, and then we can continue the conversation, the discussion as well. First up, are all three of these online?
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Okay. First up, let's go with Mashaila So.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Michelle So. I'm currently a student at the University of Arizona. I'm from the Navajo tribe. And I also wanted to note that I'm not one of the original people who have started the advocating for restoring the name of Agassiz Peak, but I've taken it upon me to continue to advocate for the renaming. So over the past years, I've gone out of my way to collect stories from elders, youth, supporters, and I'd also like to share some background information about Agassiz Peak and why we're advocating for the restoring of Agassiz Peak. Agassiz Peak is named after a biologist who used his studies to legitimize racist beliefs of white superiority. So naming a peak after him is not appropriate and antagonizes the beliefs and acknowledgments of the indigenous nations and other communities of color. This creates a culture of racism and colonization that we deem as unacceptable. So keeping the name Agassiz Peak deeply affects indigenous people, as the cultural names of the peaks describe the spiritual healing and power that the mountain withholds. This also creates a culture of racism and colonization in the city of Flagstaff. And I've also taken it upon me to collect stories, not only from myself and what I've brought up from my family, but I've also gone into other indigenous communities such as the Hopi tribe and gone out of my way to help collect and have them be heard. And I fully support this because growing up, I've always been taught that when I'm going through a hard time or waking up in the morning, that's who I pray to. So when I did some digging and history of who Agassiz Peak was named after, it didn't align with what I was taught and what was brought up from our creation stories, and as well as not only my culture, but other indigenous communities and their cultures. So thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mashaila, for being with us today and sharing those thoughts. Next, we're going to go to our other two online commenters. We have Daryl and Machias Marks. I'll leave it to the two of you to choose which one to go first.
Machias, did you want to go ahead and speak first?
No, you go ahead, Dad.
That's what I thought would happen.
Nice. So really quick, as you've heard from Michaela, and you hopefully have been hearing from the youth in our community, this is something that our Indigenous youth wanted to make sure that they brought forward and are working through the federal process to make that name change. Um, Rather than an act of Congress, you can actually go through and complete the application through the Board on Geographic Name, Domestic Names Committee's proposal form. And that's something that Michaela and Machias are working on right now with other youth in our community. As you heard from Michaela, the peaks are a part of Indigenous culture. All 14 different tribes have and hold significance of these places. And like Michaela had shared, it is in our culture to lean on the mountains in times of need. And when the youth first brought this forward, they had shared that they had only known it by an Indigenous name before it became known to them as whether they were students or traveling into Flagstaff and seeing that it held different names than they were brought up to understand through their own creation stories or through their own culture. Now, we've reached out in the last 3 years since February 2020 to make sure that we were doing this in a meaningful way. And I know that former Vice Mayor Whalen had brought it to council to remove the name of the street that was named after this person and give it the name of W.C. Riles, that I think went through a public process. And so, as Michelle had shared, this person was known for the study in what we now call it like eugenics, right? And so when we were doing this work, we had the fortune of being able to meet with the descendants of Agassiz and his family descendants. Some of them came to Flagstaff and met with the youth, and they're in the process of a lawsuit with Harvard to remove Agassiz's name from one of Harvard's colleges and take down the research that he is known for. Because it's brought shame to their family and they do not believe the same thing that he had presented. And so I hope that council sees that there is hope, and I know that the community does have hope. Our youth certainly do, that it doesn't have to go through a congressional act to make these changes. And I hope that we can all support those young people in that, because it is their future. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Daryl. Just a quick comment to you. You know, I wanted to bring this up before council so that this conversation starts happening at the dais and in public. I very much hope you don't see that as stepping on the toes of the process that you all have underway. And my hope is that this just becomes all that much more of a launching pad and an amplifier of the work that you're trying to do, and that this continues to be your cause and the cause of our Indigenous youth here in town. And it's just my honor and privilege to be the person who has the capacity to be up here and recommend it for a conversation at the dais. Was very inspired and very motivated by our youth during Indigenous Peoples Day this year, and the dialogue and the community conversation that occurred there. And I guess that's a great segue into our next commenter. Machias, please take it away and continue to inspire us if you can. Machias, you're up. You have 3 minutes. We're not hearing you yet.
Oh, I think we just were able to change his permissions.
We see you.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, see me? Okay, good.
Go for it.
Okay, thank you. So real quick, ja, she tohanen nishlen tabaham bashing ashi dashiche auto na kaidene dashinale she Machias Marks in the. So yeah, Machias Marks here. I'm a youth of the peoples, and I've been living here in Flagstaff for most of my life. And like what my father was saying, and my motivator, Michelle, shared that all of us peoples know this particular peak as Agassiz Peak. And Agassiz doesn't stand for the values that this community known as Flagstaff stands for and surrounding communities. We as indigenous peoples have known this mountain through multitude of names, and it helps bring not necessarily diversity into our lives, but a greater perspective in the lives of other peoples and their languages, how they grew up to be, and what taught them to be human beings. And as we're coming into this next stage in this country, in this world, there's a lot of conflict, and it can be very scary. There's a lot of change, and it's hard to have that change when there's barely any kind of sense of identity or stability because things are constantly changing. But when we put those good intentions out there and recognize that it's connection to other people, to other human beings that help us make us better human beings, we put those seeds in the earth and it helps us grow as better people. Just like the food that we cultivate, we have to put good nutrients with them, good minerals with them, so that what we take from the plants that we consume, to even the animals that consume those plants that we therefore consume, it becomes part of us. So when it comes to changing the name of this peak, it's what we're choosing to take within us, who we're choosing to honor, what kind of values that make us who we are as individuals, as community, and as human beings, so that when we step into that future that is uncertain, we know by today's actions that we're doing the right thing. The right thing is standing up for people, standing up for our humanity, and standing up for our sense of community. And it's going to take a lot of work and hard work. But as long as we stand together like this force that surrounds us, life as a community can prosper. And that future generations, those that come after us, will have a sense of direction by the choices we have made by today. So I hope you carry that with you, because that doesn't come just from me, it comes from my peoples. And again, thank you for providing this space for us to speak. Again.
Wow, thank you, Mikhail. Thank you so very much. We have one more public commenter, I believe, Adam Shimoni.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council and members of the public who provide public comments, very moving statements. I fully support Council having a discussion on this topic. You know, it's an important one, and I too was at the Indigenous Peoples Day event with the youth panel and was very moved by the conversation that was had. And so I'm really grateful that, you know, Vice Mayor Aslan brought this forward, and hopefully that Council will support this journey that you're going to go on with the community on this topic. You know, names are important and should reflect our values and our goals. You know, our history is not something I'm proud of, and it's topics like this and discussions like this that give me hope and give me something to be proud of looking forward and correcting the wrongs of the past. So just wanted to add that to your thought process and in considering this fair, and looking forward to the discussion that hopefully the community will have. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Council, discussion? Councilmember House.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I'll start by saying that I am in favor of moving this forward. I do want to ensure that as we're having the conversation of what this looks like, we are being very mindful of what is and may not be possible, but all of the variety of things that we can do. For example, I'm interested in pursuing what Mr. Darrell Marks raised in terms of the potential process through the rename proposal. I'm interested in looking at options of sending letters of support to Congress and looking at the presentation of the potential for renaming within our own marketing. I think that tells us that there are multiple paths forward for this, but it is also a path worth pursuing. So I very much am in support of engaging and furthering this conversation and ensuring that as we have that conversation, we continue to provide clarity, clear communications of what that progress looks like, and also be transparent in any roadblocks that we come across, and just letting people truly understand what this process looks like. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Councilmember McCarthy.
I do support moving this forward. I'll note that since I've been on council, we changed the name of the same name. We made it W.C. Riles while I was on council. And I guess the only thing that I'll add is that at some point, someone has to come up with a new name that we will call this mountain. So it isn't just a matter of taking the old name off, it's what do we want to put in for the new name. So anyway, move it forward.
And I'm sure the best process for achieving that will be part of the discussion and part of what staff is doing a deep dive into. We have enough votes to move this forward. Does anybody else want to say anything right now, or there's going to be a lot of time for conversation around this? So, go ahead, Councilmember
Vice Mayor.
Matthews.
And just kind of mirroring what Councilmember McCarthy said, it's going to be interesting coming up with a name that does honor, we have 13 tribes that these peaks are sacred to. And I'm looking forward to engaging in that process and hearing from our indigenous community to follow their direction in this and come up with something that is well received by the entire community, but definitely move forward on this. And we can do it in 2 steps, to look at the marketing and then go through the steps of an official U.S. government naming.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Council. I believe we have what we need in order to move that forward. So moving right along, the next one is also my fair. It's about revisiting Flagstaff's logo and seal. And I'll be brief here. You know, I think this is a conversation worth having. I don't feel particularly passionate about it, so you're not going to hurt my feelings if this doesn't move forward. But I just think, you know, and this isn't just coming from me, I wouldn't have brought this forward all on my own. There has been a lot of side conversation over the years around revisiting the logo, and the only reason I can think that it never really moves forward is it just doesn't rise to the level of priority for the city. But I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think this is a conversation worth visiting. You know, our logo historically has a lot to offer, and I have it behind me. I sit in front of it very proudly. But I do think there is an opportunity for a little bit of rebranding for Flagstaff. I think there's an opportunity to put one foot into the present. And I don't know that this logo really speaks to the current zeitgeist or vibe that Flagstaff has to offer these days. And I'm not an artist, I'm not a graphic designer, so I don't really have much in the way of suggestion of what our logo and our brand could look like. But I do think there are logistical, meritorious considerations for just moving into the future, how we use a brand, how we use a logo that are worth revisiting anyway. And my guess is that there would be another vigorous public process involved in this, and I'm just asking for council support to give staff the thumbs up to start what this might look like, what the process might be, and we can just take it one step at a time. I'll leave it there and open to discussion and hearing what people have to say. Go ahead, Councilmember Sweet.
Thank you. I'll start off by saying I am in favor of moving this forward. I do, however, like our current logo, and I've told a few people that, but I see it's not maybe representing Flagstaff now and into the future, so I'm willing to have the conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Anybody else? Councilmember House.
I'm willing to support this moving forward. Also, just want to recognize the use of the word zeitgeist. Thank you. But in seriousness, I think it's a conversation worth having. I think it's always worthwhile to take a look at how we represent ourselves and emblemize ourselves and the culture of Flagstaff, the history, and all of those things. So I definitely don't see any harm in advancing that conversation. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Councilmember McCarthy.
I'm not adding my name to the list of those wanting to move it forward, but I would suggest if we do, it sounds like we are, that staff gives an estimate of what the financial impact of this would be. I think it would be way more significant than maybe apparent at first brush.
Without a doubt, that is a consideration that will weigh heavily on whatever we do to move forward. But I appreciate council giving the green light for us to explore the ins and outs of that. So we can have an educated conversation about what it might mean and what it might look like. Thank you very much. Okay, so do we have a comment over there? No, okay, sorry. Public participation, city clerk, do we have any further public participation?
Not this afternoon. Thank you, Vice
Doesn't
Mayor.
look like it. All right. Well, last up for this afternoon, agenda item 13, informational items and reports from council and staff and future agenda item requests. Let's go the other way around the dais here. We'll start with Councilmember Matthews.
I don't have anything at this time, thank you.
Nothing at
Councilmember
this
Harris?
time.
No? Okay.
Nothing today?
Boom, boom, boom.
Okay,
Sweet.
I'll go quick here. This Saturday, I will be attending the Summit on Equal Responsivity in Flagstaff at NAU. We will be discussing issues of equal responsivity in business, healthcare, and government. Should be a very interesting day.
Councilmember House.
Thank you. I think Councilmember Sweet looked over my shoulder and stole my notes. I had that one as well, so I'll also be attending that and look forward to that conversation. I want to remind the community that the miniature golf playable exhibit from Creative Flagstaff is open to the community at Coconino Center for the Arts through February 23rd. I also had a meeting I keep saying this time is absolutely meaningless to me anymore. I believe it was just last week I had the opportunity to meet with Heidi Hansen and learn a lot about the Economic Vitality Division. I was surprised and impressed in all of the best ways by the sheer magnitude of all that division oversees, accomplishes, and contributes to our community. And it also just yielded a lot of good thoughts and some follow-up items for myself that came from that conversation. And lastly, I will also be attending the Chamber Annual Meeting and Athena Awards on Friday. Want to offer congratulations to all the nominees and a special congratulations to Councilmember Sweet on her nomination.
Yeah. Okay, I think that I don't have anything pressing that needs to be added right now. So I think that's all. City Manager, did you have anything?
No, thank you, Vice Mayor.
Wanted to remember to offer you that opportunity. Okay, I think that's all. Let's all go home and watch our TVs and see if we can see our mayor on the TV tonight. This meeting is adjourned.